Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the lefts, we go up to the rights, we go up to the middle of independence, we go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun. All right, guys. Today is date August 13th, 2022, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan. How the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before we get started, guys, we always try to say we're a family-friendly podcast. At least we try to be. Sometimes words do fly. At the same time, guys, there may be things that might be shown that might be too intense for younger viewers. So viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So, we've had an interesting week, haven't we? I mean, I feel like the first story we have to go back to is the first story that capped off all the right-wingers, the tinfoil hats, the Trump loyalists to their failure in chief. We have to talk about it because now we get to see why the FBI decided, along with the AG, along with every legal process being followed, we now get to understand exactly what the FBI was doing at Mar-a-Lago.
A judge has unsealed the FBI search warrant and a list of items removed by agents at former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago property. The filing indicates the Justice Department is investigating potential violations of at least 3 separate criminal statutes, including a statute under the Espionage Act. The unsealed documents show the FBI found 11 sets of classified materials, one of them marked as top secret SCI, requiring the highest security clearances that only a few in the federal government have. Sources tell ABC News the documents the FBI believed were illegally in Trump's possession were sensitive material with national security implications. The Washington Post also reporting that some of the material in Trump's possession included documents related to nuclear weapons. Trump no longer has a security clearance.
There are laws against the improper handling of this material.
Attorney General Merrick Garland says he personally approved the search warrant request approved by a federal judge who was convinced there was evidence of a crime at the former president's primary residence.
The department does not take such a decision lightly.
ABC News has learned the DOJ issued a subpoena for the documents in April. Then a small group of FBI agents visited Trump in June, requesting he return the sensitive material before escalating to a search warrant.
They had amazing patience, in my view, considering the apparent sensitivity of what they were going after.
And Republicans continue to threaten the DOJ and FBI with their own investigations of the agency if they take back control of Congress. They claim it's about oversight and transparency. In Washington,
it's about oversight and transparency. Look, I could go down the rabbit hole. Guys, and literally and figuratively say that it's not, because this is what happens. Because with conservatives, especially now, the Lorraine Boeberts and the Marjorie Taylor Greens out there, and they're not the only ones. Trump cheerleader Lindsey Graham is trying to sit there and say, well, we're going to investigate this and we're going to investigate the FBI. If there's one thing conservatives are good at, it's covering their own BS. When, again, you just heard that Trump held on to documents that contained possibly, which they couldn't say for certain, that possibly could contain information on nuclear weapons, on foreign governments, on clemency for Roger Stone, which I find is interesting, and other documents he's not supposed to have anymore because he's no longer the failure in chief. Something Republicans and conservatives seem to have a hard time for because they're still riding hard for this man. That's why we keep saying the entire time. Whoever follows Trump has to be in a cult. Who believes Trump has done no wrong has to be in a cult. That believes that Trump is being prosecuted because he has always said he was always saying everything is a witch hunt for him has to be in a cult. Why else would anyone else believe that the FBI, or as the conservatives like to call it, Biden's Department of Justice is pursuing Trump. Trump has had a history of shady deals, questionable practices, failed business attempts. Remember Trump University, Trump Steaks, Trump Vodka, Trump Airlines. Does any of this ring a bell? Because none of it's around anymore. All of it has literally fell through the cracks, buried in lawsuits from here to California. It is not beyond the realm of possibility that the simple fact of the matter that Trump decided that he wanted to hold on documents. Keep in mind, the Espionage Act is an act that you do not want to be associated with because it comes with some very, very severe penalty. And I could be remiss and sit there and say, could this be the thing that brings down Trump? Could, after all his shady business deals, the way he has hidden money, the way he has borrowed money, the way he has gotten people to loan to him, the way he has grifted people before and after his presidency, who happened to know that holding on to documents from the White House when you no longer have security clearance just might be the one thing that keeps Trump from being there for the 2024 presidential race? I just find that I'm like, just saying that this may be the one thing that actually prevents him. Who knew? Just saying. But we will keep up with that story because he has a lot to tell it. Well, I'm so surprised that they asked him. They gave him multiple chances to return documents. Like, okay, you're not going to do it? Fine, we're going to go by force. Which a lot of people don't understand because it's the whole point of being informed that Trump made it sound like everybody was coming for him. Oh, well, they've been trying to get me ever since I was president. No, we weren't. You only became a target when you violated laws. And this time you violated the right laws to get the right response. Even Merrick Garland, which I said before in the midweek review, the whole process of how this search and seizure became to be, that Merrick Garland, our U.S. Attorney General, had to sign off on it. The FBI director, who was appointed by Trump, had to sign off on it. The fact that they had to coordinate with the Secret Service detail because every president, success or failure, still keeps their security detail. The FBI had to work with the Secret Service to inform them, like, yes, we are coming down there to search and seize. So every I was dotted, every T was crossed. The only thing about Trump believed that he is above the law. Now, I will say this, when William Barr was his AG, he let him get away with murder. Jeff Sessions, his before William Barr, let Trump get away with murder because at the time, and this was said a while back, it's not being said anymore, because when Sessions was AG, when William Barr was AG, the whole opinion of the Department of Justice was we cannot go after a sitting president. I don't know why, because they keep on saying no one's above the law, even the president. But during those two attorney generals that we've had that I just mentioned, neither one of them would go after Trump. And now that we have Merrick Garland going after Trump, albeit the difference is Trump is no longer a president, still held him to the same regard as any other citizen. And that's the point that I want a lot of the conservatives out there to know. Because as much as you guys want to whine and cry, the process was done right. That Marjorie Taylor Greene and them out there talking about defund the police. I'm sorry, not defund the police, defund the FBI, defund law enforcement. It's kind of interesting considering that every minority and person of color is looking at you like, really? Because when we said it, y'all went immediately back to blue and Blue Lives Matter. And we love our officers. We, pray for our officers out there. They have a rough job. Which, by the way, before we move on to the next story, have you guys actually noticed that you haven't seen one iota of hashtag back the blue, hashtag Blue Lives Matter? Nobody? I'm just noticing this. There hasn't been one iota of it. There hasn't been one, not a tweet, not an Instagram, not a snapshot, not a TikTok, not anything on social media, nothing since this happened. Which goes to show you, and also, that's not the first time this has happened. This also happened on January 6th when the Capitol officers there testified against the Trump cultists that were being terrorists that day. you also did not see a hashtag Blue Lives Matter and Back the Blue either. Just goes to show you, it's always back the blue until the blue's on your ass. Just saying, from an observational standpoint. Moving right along, guys, I did want to cover this next story as well, because unless you've been under a rock, the bill that was passed by the Democrats, or I like to call it the watered down Build Back America plan that was just pushed through, now is being labeled as the Inflation Reduction Act, did get passed by the House. It is on its way to President Biden's desk to sign. A lot of people, including Republicans, are concerned about one thing. Now, again, for all those that don't know, part of the bill that was put through was to give $80 billion to the IRS to beef up staffing and enforcement and hiring. Now, for all those that have dealt with the IRS, it is not fun. Being with the IRS is not fun. But for a lot of us, we usually deal with the IRS once a year when we're basically filing our taxes to get our refund. Everybody remembers that, yes, you got your W-2s by the end of January. Then it's a grueling 2-week process of filing taxes online, then waiting for your refund to come back via direct deposit, or 6 weeks in the mail via regular U.S. postage. You ever wondered that could be sped up? Well, it can now, because this Reduction Act, the IRS will now be getting $80 billion to beef up enforcement and hiring. I only wish that they treated the United States Postal Service the same way. But here's a reason why people are fearing this. Because those, especially on the Fox News side of life, have sat there and said, well, this just means that the everyday person may get audited. Yes, Fox News, the three-headed hydra of Ingram, Hannity, and douchebag Tucker Carlson are all saying that the IRS is going to be weaponized in order to audit and go after everyday people. Now, again, here's my thing, and I say this all the time. Unless you are making multi-million dollars, chances are the IRS will not pay attention to you. Unless you took out triple P loans and you don't have a business and you've been spending frivolously and your loans didn't get forgiven, which I find amazing that triple P loans can be forgiven, but not student loans. But unless your loans haven't been forgiven and you're not a business and you've been taking out multiple PPP loans, that would be the only reason the IRS will probably be knocking on your door. But unless you're a multi-million-dollar company, a person of vast wealth, or you took a lot of PPP loans and decided to live the high life, unless you're one of those three things, the IRS will not be coming for you. But that's the way they want to make it seem. I'm looking on the ways of this. If you basically help one of our oldest institutions, which is the IRS, and of course, the United States Postal Service, I wish the United States Postal Service got the same boost in funding that the IRS did. Now, don't be wrong, the IRS is woefully behind. They're still working on a backlog for 2021. Even some in 2019. I'm sorry, even in not only just 2021, but even 2020, they're still working on backlogs for those taxes. So again, imagine the fact that, oh, if we give the IRS more money, that just means they're going to go to everybody. No, it just means that they should take that money and be a lot more efficient to actually help us out. Because like I said before, unless you're one of those three things in life, there's nothing you have to worry about with the IRS. Like, unless you did something frivolous, like try to write off like 10,000 something and not do it the justified legal way according to the current tax laws, that would be the only time you ever get audited. Aside from that, take your 3, take your 4, take your 5, 6, maybe 7, almost maybe 8 or 9 or even $10,000 back in your refunds. Trust me, the IRS will go after people that are bigger, that they know they get the money from. They will not come after you because you're not the criteria that they'll be looking for. But that is the fear that Fox News and those other conservative news stations out there are trying to say. That for the simple fact of the matter that, yes, somehow the IRS actually getting beef up in actual resources and funding lead to somehow that America is finally about to be, like all Americans, going to be audited. That's not the case. Also, another interesting story I wanted to bring up on this weekend review is that the Army is a little bit short The Secretary Christopher Wilmot said that the Army had recruited about 52% of its goal and will likely wind up being as short as many as 15,000 recruits. The first time in a long time that we've experienced a decline in Army enlistment. I can only imagine why. Maybe the fact that we're tired of war. Maybe it's the fact that we're kind of fighting a war on multiple continents. Maybe it's the fact that veterans are not getting taken care of once they leave the battlefield. Maybe it's the fact that, the pay and things of that nature aren't what they cracked up to be. Amazingly enough, that again, I have relatives that'll say the same thing. I've seen friends that have went to serve, and they're like, "You want to serve? Yeah, don't do it." Even more so that I always said, if it ever gets too low, they may reenact the draft. Although I doubt it. But again, that's what selective service is for. Selective service is basically just signing up for the draft. But again, this is also one thing that I did want to point out is the reason why that they may be saying that is basically because a lot of the young men and women, more than ever, are being disqualified for obesity, drug use, or criminal records. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want psychopaths being able to be trained in the Army. I don't want, drug users or drug users they should be getting help not being put in the Army. But at the same time, it amazes me that we should actually be taking a look at our armed forces and actually making suggestions and changes. But that, to be having as many troops that we have now, not troops. As far as the enlistment rate goes, it's only a sign of the times. America's tired of war. I mean, don't tell the Republicans that. The Republicans believe every time there's a war come up, they see dollar signs. But again, there's no reason for war at a certain point to where literally and figuratively we have to start looking at this. As I said before, look it up. The entire history of the U.S. as a nation, I think for two decades during our entire nation's existence, there were two decades where America was not involved in the war. Think about that. 2 decades of our nation's existence, 20 years where America did not have a war. That meant at some point in time in history outside those 2 decades, we were involved in something. Even now, we're involved in Ukraine because we're along with NATO, we are fighting terrorist Russia. Again, fighting wars for that long and that hard, despite how many credits and GI Bills you may throw at it, it does dismay the next generations from enlisting. It does. And not changing your ways kind of says a lot. But moving on, guys, I did want to cover the story as well because Florida just seems to be the king of the whole my beer crown. And in this case, with teachers, if you haven't noticed, there's a shortage of teachers in the nation. And they're trying to fill positions as quickly as humanly possible. Even my home state of Tennessee has lowered the requirements to be a teacher. And aside from the fact that they're not listening to educators, they're not paying them, they're not giving them all the resources and things that they actually need to teach kids. They're not actually looking at the public school system and really trying to keep overcrowding and trying to keep other issues from happening. They're just pretty much saying that, you just want to give vouchers so parents can go wherever they want to go to. And again, that's a whole nother conversation itself. But the reason why I bring up Florida is because, unfortunately, another educator has quit. Why did he quit? Because, again, he had posted images of Martin Luther King Jr., Harriet Tubman, George Washington Carver, and Colin Powell, and others within his classroom. He was told, and I wish I could make this up, a staff member of the school he was at, which is that O.J. Sims that you see right there, O.J. Sims Elementary School in Florida, a staff member there had came into his classroom and removed the images of the said people I just mentioned. And it's amazing to me that, again, he wanted to show people of color for obvious representation matters. But it amazes me that he was told by a staff member that they are removing those items from his classroom. And because of that, he decided to quit. I can't blame him. Because, again, this goes to this whole thing. I know a lot of people say, well, that's critical race theory. It's not. And I cannot stress this enough. Critical race theory is not being taught anywhere unless you're in law school. It's always been that way. Critical race theory has never been in a classroom, but it has scared conservatives so much that in almost 13 states, they have banned critical race theory. And those same red states, they're going through library books where they're removing people of color authors, LGBTQ authors, and certain book types because, again, they're afraid they're going to indoctrinate children. They're afraid it's going to indoctrinate children. Yet Christian religious schools are still out there and nobody's batting an eye. But I don't blame that teacher because, again, what's the whole point, in my opinion? What is the whole point of teaching when you can't show representation? I wish if I was a teacher and someone came in there and said, oh, I need you to take down your pictures of Colin Kaepernick, of this, of that, and the other, I'd be like, no. Kids need to learn history. And if they're not learning history properly, then what do you expect is going to happen? The group of kids out there right now that have no sense of history, the same group of kids out there that have very little sympathy for people of color, for other minorities out there, or just the fact that, man, let's call it what it is. A whole bunch of Mayo do not like the fact that if we tell America's true history, that one group of people are going to stand out for the atrocities they've committed. I should say their ancestors committed. Because, they don't want to sit there and say, like I said before, the same Mayo people that spit upon Ruby D when she was going to school for the first time, more than likely have grandkids now, great-grandkids now. And they don't want their great-grandkids to know that maybe Meemaw was a little bit of a racist, if it's not that apparent already. But again, this is the reason why I keep saying, guys, education is so important, but education should be pushed forward, not to the background. Because again, as I said usually at the end of my podcast, if we don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it. And that, my friend, is insanity on a whole nother level. Just saying. But speaking of things that are just surprising to me, Beto O'Rourke decided to say something where, again, it just needed to be said. And I'm not mad about it.
Uvalde, Texas, more than 2 months after the deadly shooting at Robb Elementary School. At a town hall last night, former Congressman Beto O'Rourke, who's running for governor, fired back at a heckler. He was discussing how the shooter was able to legally buy an assault-style weapon. That's when someone in the back of the room laughed out loud, and O'Rourke called him out.
And take that weapon that was originally designed for use on the battlefields in Vietnam to penetrate an enemy soldier's helmet at 500 feet and knock him down dead up against kids at 5 feet. It may be funny to you, but it's not funny to me, okay?
After the interruption, O'Rourke finished his point. He and Republican Governor Greg Abbott have agreed to debate each other next month. New outrage.
Now, again, for all those that are wondering what he said, I'll go ahead and say it. Motherfucker. In the terms of Samuel L. Jackson, that's probably a good use of the word motherfucker. I ain't gonna lie. I think Samuel L. Jackson would be proud. He said, motherfucker, you can laugh if you want. You can laugh, that's funny. That's not funny to me. And again, he's actually right. It is amazing to me that the Alex Jones of the world still look at Uvalde, Texas and say, well, that's just one person with a gun, not realizing that the laws need to change. And I don't blame Beto O'Rourke for having this. Sometimes, there's a time to be tactful. There is truly a time to be tactful. There's a time to be presidential or even just modest. To take the high road. Yeah, but sometimes you just gotta let motherfucker know. I know. You just gotta let them know. I feel no sympathy in saying that. Sometimes you have to let the motherfucker know that the motherfucker fucked up. And I'm not mad at Beto O'Rourke for that because he needed to let that be said. Because honestly, the Uvalde school system has failed those children. The law enforcement there has failed those children. And honestly, I don't blame Beto O'Rourke because Greg Abbott's going to have a hard time in his debate defending gun laws. Not when almost a lot of what has happened so far this year has basically happened in Texas, with the exception of a few events. So again, not surprising, but good on you, Beto O'Rourke. Sometimes you just got to call a motherfucker. Moving right along, guys, I wanted to cover the story as well because I did talk about this yesterday where we got the 4 officers Merrick Garland is charging them in Breonna Taylor's death. One of the officers, Kelly Goodlett, will plead to 1 count of conspiring to violate the civil rights of Breonna Taylor. They confirmed this plea during an online court hearing on Monday. So, Goodlett is being charged for her role in help falsifying an affidavit for the search info into Taylor's apartment. considering the fact that they were going after Taylor's boyfriend, not the current boyfriend, but her ex-boyfriend, who was suspected of drug deals. Now, you're probably wondering, for a lot of people, why was this not brought up with the current Kentucky DA that was brought in? Well, aside from Daniel Cameron being connected to Mitch McConnell and just basically being a part of the raccoon community, he did what every other prosecutor can do. And it's been said multiple times. If a prosecutor wants to get an indictment from a jury, they can. If they don't want an indictment from a jury, they can make sure that happens by withholding evidence. But considering the fact that one of the 4 detectives is already posing guilty to falsifying evidence, should scream that there's a lot of injustice being done on behalf of Miss Taylor, who simply went to bed and decided to get killed in her sleep because 4 officers basically decided that, hey, they were above the law and that they had the entire backing of the state attorney's office along with Louisville PD to cover it all up and bury it all down because they knew beyond a reasonable doubt that they murdered Breonna Taylor. So I don't feel bad for this, but if I was the AG for Merrick Garland, I would also go after Daniel Cameron. I would also go after Louisville PD for their parts in this, because this, my friends, was one of the biggest and obvious cover-ups in our modern history. But again, we'll follow that story as it goes along. Also, another story that has happened, guys, recently, because again, with Trump has basically, I won't say inspired, but let's be honest, he has inspired people to go after the FBI, because that's what happens. Whenever Trump points out something, he pointed out CNN. There was a person not too long ago decided to go after a news station armed. He decided to go after the poll workers that were working during his election that testified. They had multiple death threats and had to get upgraded security. Trump has also sat there and said the FBI has wrecked him. And just like that pattern usually happens, there's always someone in this cult that looks at the message and decides to go with it.
Reporter Aaron Katursky, along with ABC News contributor and former FBI agent Brad Garrett and attorney Jeffrey Robbins for more on this. Brad, how concerned are you that there could be copycat attacks on FBI agents or offices after this standoff, but particularly with the Justice Department now poised to release the Mar-a-Lago search warrant?
I'm really concerned. If you look at this shooting yesterday, it's a great example of a desperate person, a poor plan, goes into a highly secure area against probably hundreds of agents, some heavily armed, and then flees. So really, it doesn't really take planning. So are there people out there similar to this guy? The answer is, of course. And they're looking for some justification to launch an attack, in this case against FBI agents. So if I were still active, I'd be very concerned and aware as I moved around.
Now, Aaron, Republicans want to know how the FBI got the information that led to the search warrant, suggesting that there may have even been an informant close to former.
Okay, and I just want to stop it right there, because what they were going into, guys, was that there was a standoff in Ohio where a man was trying to break into an FBI office, and somehow he was taken down alive. But keep in mind, this is just a day or so after Trump called out the FBI, after literally and figuratively, individuals, going down to Mar-a-Lago, still blaming the FBI, still saying CNN is fake news. And now you have an individual that went to an FBI office to try to, the Lord knows what they're going to do. At the same time, taken alive. But again, where does he get this idea from? He got it from the failure in chief. No ifs, ands, or buts. He got it from the failure in chief. Because again, he called CNN. Look at his pattern. He called CNN fake news. One of his people tried to go after a news station. He talked about poll workers. Again, those very same poll workers had multiple death threats. He's called out multiple people, multiple departments, and yet something has always happened. Why are we surprised now that on the Monday where the raid happens, that he talks about the FBI and there's somebody who has guns and ammo and other intentions are trying to break into an FBI office to do what exactly? And if this doesn't tell you that Trump needs to be locked up, Nothing will. That's all I'm saying. But we're going to go move on to our feel-good segment because usually how the Frack got here, we usually cover a lot of things, a lot of doom and gloom, making faith in humanity. But hey, it's the weekend. And finally, it is not as hot as it used to be. Oh, I cannot wait for winter. Bring on the effing cold. I will be so fracking happy. But that being said, guys, we do want to leave y'all some good vibrations. Hopefully these next 3 stories will do it. I always love stories about hidden talent. And this man that we're about to show, who is a football player, yes, but has the voice that would make Pavarotti proud.
329 pounds, Chance Lytle is a force on the football field.
Hit from behind!
Turns out he's a surprising star in the locker room, too. Chance transferred to Duke University as a grad student. It's his first year on the team.
They have all of the new guys come up and sing a song, and I chose to just do what I knew how to do.
And his teammates could not believe their ears.
It is always a shock. I don't have necessarily the normal physique and look of a professional level opera singer.
Throughout his life, football and music have always played well together. It started at the piano with his dad when Chance could barely walk, then violin until his hands got too big, on to cello, and finally opera. And thanks to a football scholarship, he earned a music degree from the University of Colorado.
What is the ultimate goal? Playing in the NFL or singing at the Sydney Opera House?
Both. There's a lot of athletes that I've met who have so many other talents, and there's so much more than just the sport that they play. Don't judge a book by its cover. There's a lot more to people out there.
Offensive lineman meets operatic bass. Range? No question. Blaine Alexander, NBC.
All I got to say is the man can go. And the simple fact of the matter is when you have people out there that literally and figuratively can do some great things, imagine that. You get up to sing and he bust out with Ave Maria. At that point, you just in there like, bro, you won. Imagine the dude behind him that's like, okay, this brother can sing opera. I was just gonna take a jug and just boom, boom, boom. I got he won. But anyway, move right along, guys. Today we'll cover this story because, you know, aside from sports, keeping with sports, there are a lot of things that can be learned from life lessons from people teaching you sports. In this case, this young man dedicates this to his grandpa who taught him about life through baseball.
After the hug on the Little League field last night here, I guess you could call this our new series, Life Lessons from the Little Leaguers. Tonight in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, 9-year-old Felix Carrier just had the best baseball game of his young career. Felix playing ball since he was 4, his grandfather Bruce, Papa, teaching him, going to every game. Whoa! And of course, Papa Bruce was there when Felix hit his very first home run, and then a grand slam. Felix, after the game, holding the baseballs, signing them, and of course, you can guess who he was about to give them to.
I signed the ball for you.
Okay.
And it says, Papa, I love you.
Why did you do that?
Because you've taught me everything about baseball.
Oh, honey. That's so sweet. I'll put it right on my, oh God, that was so good. Wow, honey. Woo! And right here tonight,
Hi, David.
Felix and Papa Bruce.
He signed the ball, and it says, Papa, I love you. Well, I was surprised, happy, and so proud.
And that 9-year-old grandson in the 3rd grade on why he did it.
He always cheers me on. And he's like my best friend, so.
Wow. Pretty incredible.
Yeah, you're never going to beat that bond between grandparent and grandchild, and especially in the world of baseball. But I thought that was pretty wholesome. The last story I got, guys, of course, was a little bit we done earlier in the week because, again, educators hold a very special place in my heart. And this one is definitely not different because I love seeing when great things happen to educators because Lord knows they need more than just flowers. They actually need funding. They need pay. And again, this is supposed to be a feel-good segment. So I'm just going to go ahead and play this.
With a very special surprise for an A Goes above and beyond for her students and her family. This segment is sponsored by Verbo and GMA contributor Megan Wright outside one of their vacation homes in Miami right now with that teacher who has no idea about what is going to happen here. Megan, take it away.
Hello, hello. I am here with Vicky Puentes. Now, Vicky, you think that we are here to celebrate several teachers all over Florida, but guess what? We are here just for you. You are live on Good Morning America. We have something special planned. If you'll come with me, Vicky. I need you to trust me, Vicky, okay? I'm going to open the door up for you here. Open the door. Watch your step, Vicky. Watch your step. Watch your step. Watch your step. Okay, so I know that you have been a teacher and a counselor for close to 20 years. You always put everyone ahead of yourself. We are so impressed by your story. Come this way, Vicky. And we are not the only ones. Come on out here. Yes. Look at all of these people that are here for you. Yes, yes. Let's take a walk over here. Students, current students, friends, teachers. Yes, Vicky. Oh, Vicky. Yes, let's come over here. Let's come over here, Vicky. Let's come over here. And also, Vicky, wait, look at me, Vicky, look at me. I know you think that your family probably sleeps in, but they didn't. They are here as well. Your family is here. Yes. We even flew your son, Danny, from Orlando to be with you as well. Now, Vicky, we wanted the people that you love to be here to honor you. We know your incredible story, but we want the rest of America to know it as well. Take a look.
I'm posting a newsletter every single week. Stuff about PSAT, everything that you need. The 7 common apps.
It's the middle of summer, but Miami Senior High advisor Vicky Puentes is taking no days off.
Good afternoon, CAP office. This is Ms. Puentes speaking.
For the last 5 years, she's been the school's college assistant program advisor. The symbols of her selfless dedication are pinned with pride on the CAP office walls.
The hours that I put in here are never wasted. Everything that I do is just to maximize somebody else's personal and human experience.
Class of 2022 graduates Samantha Yera and Gabriel Ferrer say inspiration could be found in these halls.
Coming here and seeing people like Ms. Puentes is the things that makes you want to wake up in the morning.
These first-generation college students are navigating uncharted territory.
I had no idea what I was doing when I was filling out my financial aid applications. It could have felt lonely, but it didn't because she was there.
Whether it be Ivy League or HBCUs, Mrs. Puentes' mission is to inspire her students to dream without limit.
I'm from the same neighborhood. I still live 5 minutes from here. And success is definitely at their reach. Their background doesn't necessarily dictate who they can become. This 4-block radius isn't their limit.
It's a mantra she first had to believe herself 30 years ago as she walked these very halls as a student.
When she was a student, she had a passion for education, and now she's more passionate about it.
It's a full circle moment. She's paying it forward alongside the very teachers who helped nurture the burning light inside her.
This vocation that she has for education, for teaching, or for helping kids is like no one else's.
Where are my seniors?
Ms. Puentes makes Miami High a home. She truly, truly is like a second mother to not only me, I'm sure, but Gabriel too.
For sure.
Read to your brother what you put.
No, you can.
And her 4 children have nothing but pride and adoration for their mom.
That's our officer picture.
Yeah, that's my main mom. Yeah, so it's my number one.
Her 3 sons are all graduates of Miami Senior High, and her youngest daughter currently walks the same campus.
My mom treats every student the same as us. She spends late nights, hours talking to these kids that probably don't have a good situation at home, and she's there for them every hour of the day, willing to help them with their needs.
There's no other way to describe Ms. Puentes as somebody with more than 1,000 sons and daughters.
Vicky, how are you feeling?
Overwhelmed, super excited, honored to be here.
My favorite thing to do is to say, we're not done yet. We are not done yet. Let's bring out Melanie Fish, a travel expert for our sponsor, Verbo. Melanie, what's going on?
Mrs. Puentes, you are a shining example of bringing people together, and that's what Verbo is all about, bringing people together, which is why we're celebrating today at this beautiful vacation home. It's just an example of the places available on the app across the country, across the world. This one would actually be great for your family. It's got 5 bedrooms. There's plenty of room around the pool for your students. So we're happy to be celebrating here, but it's not quite enough. We also want to celebrate you by giving you $20,000 to go towards a dream vacation. You can choose a whole private vacation home anywhere in the country. We want you to take your whole family because really it's just as much about who you're traveling with as where you're going. Congratulations.
Yes. Well, everyone, what do you think? Let's hear it from Mrs. Quintez. Yes. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Megan.
That was fun.
That was sweet.
And again, I just love the fact of when you can see educators really get rewarded for what they do, it is truly a beautiful thing. And I love it. Like I said, you love to see it. But that's going to do it for our podcast, guys. And thank you all for watching, for liking, for linking us live. Certainly appreciate it. Let me know what you guys think. Did you like it? Did you hate it? There's some things about the story. I want to know your opinions on everything that we discuss. I like to carry the conversation that way. But before we get out of here, I do want to do some shameless plugging. I do want to first shout out to my buddy, Big BZA Dot. You can find him, Big BZA Dot, on all socials, A. Levon Witherspoon on Facebook. And you can definitely check out his podcast as well as his beats and his TikTok. Yes, Big BZA Dot is on TikTok now with Big BZ's Thoughts. Trust me, they're interesting as all get out. But definitely check him out. Aside from that, guys, I am available on all socials. Your Instagram, your Snapchats, your TikToks, all of them. BlackFox447. Definitely like it. Definitely like and subscribe there, guys, as I do post a lot of things that I've reviewed as well as gym stuff because I do a couple push-ups. At the same time, guys, I'm all about motivation. Like I said before, just being decent. We have been through a rough couple of years. But it's almost like we forgot just to be decent, to be kind. I'm not asking you to be overall good Samaritans, but I'm asking you to, you know what, especially brothers, just say hi to each other. Just say hi, acknowledge each other. We're all going through something. Everybody's got a different battle they're going through. But again, if you just check on your people, say hi, hello, just do a little bit. You might do a little bit more than just, shining a bright light in the darkness. You actually might be saving a life. So definitely try to do that. Of course, the link that you see at the bottom, guys, is my link tree, but I'm going to blow it up just a little bit bigger. If you copy and paste that into your browser, we'll take you to my link tree that has the YouTube and Facebook groups for all of my podcasts. How the Frack got here, Get Bit, of course, the Offense Podcast. Definitely check them out there. And again, guys, I know coronavirus doesn't seem like it's out there. It doesn't seem like it's mostly out there, but it is with its variants, including monkeypox. So if you're going to be in an area that has a lot of high traffic, please, oh, please wear a mask. Protect yourself because you can protect others. That's how we're going to get past this pandemic. So the last thing I'll say about how the Frack got here, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are simply giving you all the information and allowing you to make up your own mind for yourself, but we provide a logical perspective that goes along with it. We do a lot better as a society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past by making decisions now that we should have done back then, like electing our first Black woman to the Supreme Court, like electing our first Black woman to the Federal Board of Governors, electing our first Black 4-star general in history, in the history of the Army, electing our first woman to a very high command post in the U.S. Army. When we don't learn from history, that's why, guys, we are doomed to repeat it. That's why we keep asking ourselves, why does everything go up with your paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians, but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, how the Frack got here. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we will certainly, mostly, hopefully, get through this.